Hey guys, it's Dragon, and today's video about who should be pull edition in 4.3. So this is between Navia, Ayaka, Raiden, Shogun, and Yoimiya. But this time I will not make very detailed because I'm sick, so I just make very short about the overview, good and bad, and what you should pull for them. And including should you pull for the constellation or weapon, so let's get started. Let's start with the brand new character, which is Navia, the boss of Spin ID Rosula. Navia is Geo DPS that get advantage to not bound with any mono Geo style, because basically in her kit it's only require double Geo and that's it, and make her to become more flexible in team building. She performed the best in a single target, or we can say bosses, and the biggest selling point of her is that she take advantage from the front load damage with relatively very high damage. The nuke is literally can start from 150k to over 300k, can be even more than that, and it's not rely on any complicated setup. It's basically only get the stack from bullet, which is pretty easy, and it's not also burst reliant like Eula. You can get this high damage very easily and get consistent high damage. So this nuke damage that we can see like 300k like that, it can please our eyes though. It feels like therapy, and it's also good for screenshot damage. For some reason it gives like kind of good feeling. So although I can admit that her DPS is not as good as Nevilet or Alhaitham, but seeing bigger number like this that Nevilet and Alhaitham cannot did, it just feels satisfying. It just feels like, I don't know, therapy that I already mentioned. However, couple things to mention about Navia negative things. The first one, currently she doesn't really have any perfected Geo unit like or Geo teammates right now. At the best is Zhongli or Albedo, but doesn't feel very synergized very well. So perhaps in the future it's Chiori, but who knows, right? So in short, currently Navia doesn't really have any perfected team. So maybe in the future. Also a little bit annoying, sometimes the Gunbrella can be missed, even sometimes you already hold it can be missed, so it's a little bit small annoyance for me. And other than that, she might struggle in too many like multi-waves enemy or enemy that keeps spreading around, because she doesn't really have any team that can synergize in crowd control, so that's currently her a little bit weakness in multi-wave or spread enemy. So in the end, my main recommendation for you to pull Navia is that first, if you still need a relatively strong main DPS, then pull for her, especially if you want like the character DPS that not really bound with the reaction, then yeah, Navia is one of them that don't really need a special reaction though, because she is Geo. And other than that, the main reason is that if you really want to see a big nuke damage in one screenshot, like 300k, something like that, pull for her. Because I always say, seeing a big number is gives you a good feeling. It gives you a therapy. So maybe if you kind of like that, same like me, then pull for her. And lastly, if you like the character or the gameplay, feel free to pull for her. And second character is Ayaka. Ayaka overall is still relatively strong DPS, still top until right now. Especially in her meta team, which is Freeze, that consists of Kazuha, Shenner, Kokomi. That team is basically performed really good. At the best, we can say, in Ayaka team. And also, like if you want to play in Melt and other reaction, still usable, but of course it's not the best one. And a little bit advantage if you have Ayaka, she may also help you in the water exploration because she can do the ice breathing, so you will no longer need to swim. Although it's not really that unique anymore because of course Furina already taking over. The biggest advantage that I already highlighted before, that having Ayaka in the Freeze team is basically like you already have like the end game account, which is you can clear with Ayaka with Freeze team like 70 to 80% of the time. Like in hard content like Spiral Abyss, you can clear it in every situation. As far as I know, that only have hard time is 3-point series because they literally just push anything about Dendro, so that's why Ayaka to be struggle. But other than that, she never struggle and can clear pretty easily. On the other hand, also she still of course have some of the issue or negative things, which is first that I want to mention is that sometimes her burst can miss, especially if they move like too far. Then yeah, because Ayaka burst at C0 is not that big, sometimes it can miss and that can be annoying sometimes. And lastly, I already say that her best team is basically consists of a lot of 5-star, which is all of them, which is Ayaka, Kokomi, Kazuha, and Shenhe. All of them is 5-star, so some of the other player might find it's expensive, so takes note in that. My recommendation for you to pull Ayaka is that if you still need a solid DPS, especially if you're planning to pull in the future the character like Kokomi, Kazuha, or Shenhe, then yeah, I really recommend you to pull for Ayaka though, because it can make a complete Freeze team, which is it's one of very solid team though, especially in Freeze. And lastly, of course, if you like Ayaka gameplay and character, then yeah, feel free to pull for her. And let's move to the third character, which is Yoimiya. Yoimiya is DPS that main specialty is in a single target, precisely post content. In here, she's doing a very good job, especially like agile boss like Thunder Manifestation. She's doing very great there. She's also working like either in Mono Pyro team or Vaporize. She's doing pretty good job in there. Overall, Yoimiya is still pretty much a decent to good Pyro DPS with the couple things that I want you to take notes or like aware that she has couple of negative things. The first one, the major problem of hers that she struggle in the multiple enemy or AoE content. In there, basically you might feel not comfortable to play for her because basically her skill and normal attack is just very single target. It's very different than Navia Gunbrella, although it's meant to be a single target. But if the enemy very close, you can still hit AoE. So at least it still has a essence of AoE. And bursts also still have AoE and quite long. Yoimiya bursts like AoE is very short. And that's not even super useful. So because of that, it's very single target block. And maybe some of people don't really enjoy it. And lastly, not really a big deal. However, like Utao is always overshadow Yoimiya in terms of the choice. So that's why mostly if like content creator recommendation, Utao always become the first choice compared to Yoimiya. So my main recommendation to pull for Yoimiya is that mostly if you really like her as a character and gameplay, and some of the cases that maybe if you need a DPS that only focus on single target or bosses, then yeah, she might be the one. Last but not least, the Electro Archon Raiden Shogun. Raiden Shogun is pretty much one of the popular character, of course because she is Archon. However, if you talk like in serious tone, in terms of utility, she is also pretty much a versatile character where she can become a good main DPS like you want to make like in the traditional build like international, national, whatever you want to call, or even EM build like in Hyper Bloom. So you can just take everything in EM. And not only that, she can become a good sub DPS for Electro application like in Taser team or even Hyper Bloom. Again, that already mentioned, she's good also in Hyper Bloom. Let's say like example like Navia with Raiden Shogun is pretty good, so something like that. And a little bit knows about Raiden Shogun that I don't know if this is a positive or negative, but in current state, Raiden Shogun at C0 maybe not feel that as superior as before, or at least it will not feel like as wah before like 3.0. Because like after 3.0, there's more new character, especially when even Fontaine, have Furina, Nevilet, and Dendro especially, that a lot of team that do not require so much investment but yet become very powerful, and you can do that even without Raiden Shogun. So that's why I say in here that Raiden Shogun is still pretty much a good character, but it doesn't feel that wah or superior anymore. So don't expect at Z0 right now Raiden Shogun is everything that can dethrone everyone. In the end, my main recommendation for you to pull Raiden Shogun is that if you're a new player, beginner, or even player that looking for a character that's versatile, the one that can contribute in the multi-roles, let's say main DPS, sub DPS, or even playing in different type of reaction, because Raiden Shogun can play in Overload, even in the Hyper Bloom and other stuff of the mixed reaction. So because of that, if you kinda need this kind of versatile character, then Raiden Shogun pretty much is one of your choice. Of course, I keep mentioning that if you like the character or gameplay, especially she is Archon, then feel free to pull for her. And now let's move to the topic for the early constellation or the weapon, and let's start with Navia. So which one you should prioritize, weapon or constellation? So the answer is that it really depends on your priority. If you just care about damage, of course just take the signature weapon, the verdict one. It's very good to increase her more the damage. However, if you care more about quality of life, like let's say the C one, you don't even need any ER, so basically you're free from ER requirement. And C2 you can get a lot of crit rate, C up to 36 crit rate. That means in here you just can focus building your crit damage, so improving your quality of life in building in your stat itself. But yeah, in the end it's your choice, either you want damage or you want constellation. Damage weapon, constellation is for quality of life. As for Ayaka, should look at the early constellation or the weapon? So my answer is that the weapon is always the priority, because the mid splitter itself increase her damage by a lot. Not even like Primordial Jade Cutter, mid splitter give quite significant amount of increase in damage. That's why I say prioritize the mid splitter first or the signature first. And then after that is C2, because C2 you can get the burst one, get additional 2 smaller frostbite, which is can help to get additional damage. And less important is C1, because of course it's very RNG. It have 50% to get like cooldown decrease. Yeah, it's nice, but also RNG, so doesn't feel that valuable. So if I rank the level of importance is that weapon, C2 and C1. For Yoimiya, should you choose for early Constellation or signature weapon? For me, I prefer to go for Thundering Pulse or signature weapon first because it can increase our DPS or damage more. But other than that, the one I will rank the next, which is C2, because C2 is basically can increase Yoimiya fire damage bonus by 25% for 6 seconds if it's land crit, which is pretty much still good. And the last one that I will rank, which is C1. C1 technically looks good, however, it's hard to be reliable or hard to become like efficient, because first you need to do burst and you need to kill the enemy while in the burst state that have marked in Aurora Blades, then you can get this Yoimiya attack increase though. So feels good, but not really kinda reliable to trigger always though. However, if you can trigger this always and combine with C2, then it can be better, like you going for C2 and better than signature weapon though. Lastly, for Raiden Shogun, should you go for early Constellation or the signature weapon? My answer, it depends what Constellation if you want to get. If you're going for C2, C2 is actually better, way better than signature weapon, because this defense ignorance for like 60% to the open actually very good, especially if you play in non-Dendro team for Raiden. It just make a lot of hyper carry, so it's usually better than the signature weapon. But of course, if you're just going for C1, then signature weapon is still pretty much better than C1, because C1 just getting stack easier and increase damage a little bit, but not that much. So in that point, just go for the signature weapon first though if you want to go for C1. So that's it about all the overview about the characters. So in the end, if you ask my verdict about who you should pull in 4.3, my answer is Raiden Shogun, of course, because she's the most versatile among all. She can become like sub DPS like for electro application and have a lot of different build in, like let's say hyper carry like traditional, national, international, or even hyper bloom. So she like character that you can do with a lot of different stuff in there. So I usually prefer with this kind of character, so my verdict is Raiden Shogun. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the subscribe button and like, and I will very appreciate it, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.